Hey everyone, I have a project to share with you, and I wanted to take you kind of through a little walkthrough of my gallery wall, which turned into a gallery room project. I recently had kind of my house repainted, and I had the dining room painted red, kind of a dark red on the bottom and kind of a pinky red on top. And I thought the pink was a little much, but started thinking, well, I'm going to put some stuff on the walls and that'll sort of mellow it out. And that's when I started kind of researching a gallery wall project. And I have loved it. It has been so cool. I've been working on it for months, been like scouring antique and vintage stores. I decided to kind of go for like a kind of Baroque, Rococo, kind of like more is more, kind of maximalism, slightly Victorian kind of thing, right? And I did purchase some actual antiques, some verified sort of antiques that are nothing super expensive, but like we're a little bit pricey. And then other things are things I found at a thrift store for $4, or ordered online for a couple bucks, or found at Home Goods. And I also used my 3D printer to kind of enhance a bunch of things. And really, I was more going for the vibe kind of things than what the actual thing was. Like, was it a real antique or whatever? So anyway, I've been working on it for months. I haven't shared anything because I have some friends coming over this weekend for brunch, and I kind of want to see them. I want them to see it in person, right, first. So I'm going to be posting this video kind of after they're here and after they've seen it in person, but wanted to share it with all of you and sort of take you on a tour and kind of get you to see it. And it's a little bit crazy, it's a little bit wacky, but I ended up loving it so much. Okay, so I'm gonna flip the camera around here for a second. Okay, so this is my front door here, and then it kind of goes right into the dining room, which is my gallery wall project. So I sort of framed it so that when you're coming in the front door and you look in, you have that sort of big picture over here of the girl. Kind of, it's sort of the focus, and she's looking that direction. So hopefully it kind of takes the viewer in that direction. So I'll start kind of there. So this is, these are some examples of things I found. So that painting and that fan, the fan is an actual antique. Some of the other little paintings there, but then there are some examples of like an embroidery piece that I've done at the bottom. And this is like a 3D printed little diorama I put together. Some little cheap cameo that I put in a like a fancy frame. And that one up there is a print from an antique ladies journal magazine that I put into the frame. I won't go through every piece, obviously, but I'm gonna kind of give you the slow scan here. And then maybe I'll come back and kind of talk about some other things. And then the last wall kind of over here, which is the one to the left as I walked in the room, does have some stuff on it, but it's also my little kind of homage to my love of cats. And so, again, there's kind of examples of 3D printing. So these two statues over here are 3D printed. And then this big wall mounted piece up here is 3D printed. The frames that you see these other little pictures in are 3D printed. The large centerpiece is actually an old, like really old IKEA frame that I got that I spray painted gold. And the image in the middle is actually my two cats that I had AI create them as sort of dressed in royalty. And then I had it printed at Staples and then added it to that frame. And sadly, my girl Kitty, the one in white sitting down, is passed away just recently. So I have a little kind of homage to her down here at the bottom for now. But I also added these other little kind of frames of like cats as royalty, and added that red kind of piping in there. Let's see, oh, and I forgot, of course. So one of the also kind of cool things is the chandelier. So it started out just as like kind of a regular normal brass chandelier that I have added 3D printed elements to, including these like flourishes, and then added some crystals, but also added like these little hanging elements. So down below there are seahorses and fish, and up above are little birds. And then of course the table itself. See if I can get kind of a bigger picture here. So it's all set for my brunch this weekend, but I 3D printed these like classic statues, and I have a little kind of forest scene going on with mushrooms and little forest critters and pumpkins that I 3D printed, and these little leaves that are 3D printed. Oh, and this piece, which is in the center, is really cool actually. It's this like, I have flowers in it, so it's a little bit covered up, but it's a like recreation of this classic actual object that was scanned and then 3D printed, of these like, you know, women holding up these bowls. And so I've added flowers to it as my centerpiece. But I don't know, there's so much in here. And I hope when people come in, they feel the same way, like that there's so much in here to kind of look at. I have some pictures which are actual, you know, vintage things that I left in the frames, other things. This is from that same lady's journal from like 1880. I bought at a vintage market this antique ladies journal magazine, and it had pictures in it, and this one sort of tells a little story about fabric and how wonderful it is to have fabric. Other things are things I made. This is a vintage Estee Lauder perfume container, which I just mounted on this little frame I found, backed with some velvet. Some more 3D printed things, this little statue, this little bug. I like kind of the idea of like, kind of like the naturalistic museum and having some, you know, things related to nature. So I have that, and I obviously have this taxidermy pheasant here, which was pretty cool. This is another picture I had AI create, and I added to this frame. And I sort of have this like very vague kind of story going on here of like the lady and man of this like Victorian house or whatever. So I've tried to add little kind of details or things going on about, you know, kind of like the books they might have, or he in my story is sort of like kind of like a young Charles Darwin, right? Kind of an explorer. So he's bringing home like samples of shells and skulls and nature and things like that. And she's more of like the aristocrat and sort of the high society lady. So she's got, you know, perfume containers and pictures of her family, which goes back. And I have sort of like hat pins and a beaded, this is an actual Victorian beaded purse, and a little Victorian trinket box. And, you know, maybe she's attending the opera, and I have her gloves over here, kind of in this is an actual Victorian glove holder that I found in an antique market. And again, just more like this classic pieces 3D printed. This and the Renoir reprint and this lady over here, I got at an auction. Yeah, anyway, so, oh, and these things over here are cool. I call these the Portal Guardian. So again, 3D printed, which I then like spray painted with this faux granite kind of spray. So they actually have kind of like a rough rock texture to them. Yeah, so that's my project. It's a little bit like more is more. Again, I was like sort of embellishing with little gold accents kind of everywhere and flourishes and the little peacock onlays above the door over here. And just this is an actual like Victorian antique mirror, but this is a 3D printed object that I did, right? These two little Limoges are actual antiques from France, as well as this one, this Limoges over here. But this is I think a $12 print from Home Goods. So yeah, so lots of little things. I tried to add lots of interest besides just paintings to look at, but like objects to add, you know, sort of three-dimensional qualities and just things to sort of look at. And so I hope you enjoyed it. And if you come by, I hope you will come by and sign my little guest book as an attendee here. So, okay, that's it. Hope you enjoyed it. And thanks a lot for watching. Bye.